Welcome to another episode of Kinda Funny Xcast. I'm your host, Parris, and you might be thinking, host? That's right. Mike, unfortunately, is under the weather this week, so I'm the captain. I'm jumping in the captain's chair. I'm hosting Xcast, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Gary Whitta.
Hello, how are you, Parris?
I'm doing fantastic. Let's see how much I can screw up this hosting thing, but other than
Nah,
that,
you're going to do great. You're going to do brilliant.
No, I'm good. But hope you had a good week this week.
Yeah, not too bad. Playing lots of, somehow managed to actually squeeze in some video. I've been very busy work-wise, but somehow managed to squeeze in some game time as well. So all good over here.
Nice, very nice. Now, since Mike is out, I went to the bench and I called up someone to the major leagues because this guy is a blue chipper. He is awesome. He is one of my best friends in the world. This is Mr. Andrew Alliance of the show Radio. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you. It's good to be with you guys today, man. Just excited to be here and have a great conversation.
No, absolutely. Again, when I thought about who's someone we have not had on Xcast, who is someone that I would love to talk about Xbox with, and I immediately thought of you, sir. So I'm so happy to have you here. Now, before we find out more about you and we jump into the show proper, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. And I want to remind everyone that Xcast posts each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services everywhere. Please subscribe to youtube.com/kindafunnygames, like the video and share it with your friends. We're also on podcast services, so please subscribe and leave those reviews. And I want to thank our Patreon producers, Mick at The Nanobiologist, Tom Bach, Elliot, James Hastings, Sancho West Gaming, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, Trent Barry, Tyler Ross, and the Xcast is sponsored by Upstart, Fitbod, Dr. Squatch, but we'll get to those later. Now, Andrew, you're here. It is customary when we have a new person on the show. We would like for them to tell the audience about themselves. So please, the floor is yours, sir. Tell us a little bit about Andrew Alliance and the show Radio.
Sure. Show Radio started in 2009, but I wanted to go back a little bit since I had a little preview on how we wanted to do this particular portion. I struggled with English growing up, even though I was born in America. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. And in the early years, because of my struggle, I had to take ESL. And from there, challenges there, so I got made fun of back in the day in regards to that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take that particular challenge and make it something, powerful in the process. So I remember watching a lot of sitcoms and studying how people behaved and how they spoke to each other on those sitcoms. And I think that became not only a passion, but it became a life's work to understand language. So even coming up, language arts and of course, gym, those kind of things have always been passion. Marketing became a passion, but I realized looking back that those things were forged from pain, right? So the ability to have a conversation with somebody and have depth with them is a gift that I know that I have. And I'm embracing that, now 10 years into the podcasting world. So the show Radio was born out of that. Not just inspiration from you and Godfrey and some individuals that we may have forgotten along the way, but because they were forerunners of those things, it allowed us to be who we are today and just be present in the conversations that we have. So Tech, Gaming, and Entertainment Podcast is the show Radio. We're over 580 plus episodes at this point. Currently do a documentary with Giselle Sturdivant. She's the creative relations at Logitech, and also Miss DJM is my co-host. She's been with me since episode 340. So I take that gift and just try to use it for the greater good. I know that it is a gift that I have, and I want to do good with it.
Oh, no. Again, like I said at the top, you're one of my best friends, and I always love talking to you.
Likewise.
And what people will find out about you is like you're sneaky, because you and I can get into a conversation about anything, and the next thing I know, I feel like I'm literally on the psychiatrist's couch and you're analyzing my entire life, because you are really, really good at doing interviews and talking to people and just getting kind of to the root of what makes people tick. And when we talk about gaming and tech, really getting into the motivations and ambitions that people have within gaming. So again, I am so happy to have you here because
Thank you. Thank you, man.
you are always very opinionated. You remind me of me in that way. You always got an opinion about something. But no, you're really good at what you do. And I highly recommend everyone go check out the show Radio. Like you said, you've been doing this for a very long time. And, you know, you're one of the best in the biz, in my opinion. I always say that.
Thank you, man.
Every time someone asks me, you know, who is a person that you should go speak to, I always say Andrew Lyons because you're that good. So
Thank you, man.
Again,
Appreciate that.
thank you for coming on the show. Let's jump in to the news topics. There's about 5 of them this week. There's one I really want to get into because there's a lot of bullet points on this, and that is, again, Xbox. And I want to start off with something that debuted today. We're taping this on a Thursday, and this came from Xbox.com, and this came from Matt Booty, who is the head of Xbox Game Studios, and he is talking about continuing our PC gaming journey in 2021 and beyond. So some of the bullet points that came out of this was building communities around games, not devices, creating experiences tailored to PC gamers, helping developers deliver exceptional experiences. The future of PC gaming is brighter than ever. And I'll just read kind of the closing thing that Matt Booty talked about in this article, and then I'll kick it over to you, Gary, for some reaction. We know that we still have a lot of work to do, but based on the response from both PC gamers and PC game developers, we think we're headed in the right direction for this community with the investments we're making. We have never been in a better position as an organization to deliver for PC gamers, with Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda developing content for both PC and Xbox. The Windows and DirectX teams creating technologies that empower developers and provide PC players with features that specifically take advantage of PC hardware. Xbox Game Pass for PC featuring games for every type of PC gamer, with Xbox Game Studio games coming on day one, and the ongoing evolution of the Xbox app and Xbox Game Bar. We'll continue listening to the community to ensure we're delivering on our promises and respecting how players choose to play. This is especially true as we head into the second half of 2021, when our work across the entire PC ecosystem has the potential to come together in a way that propels the industry forward and brings great games to more gamers around the world. And just some of the highlights that came out of this, and Gary, I'm really going to want to get your reaction on this. Halo Infinite will have some cross progression across console, PC, and cloud. They're going to add auto HDR features for PC. And then Matt Booty also talked about on August 1st, the developer share for PC game sales net revenue will increase to 88%, up from 70%. And this is a clear, no string attached revenue share without any caveats, matching the Epic Game Store. So, Gary, I'm really curious to get your reaction. There's obviously a lot that came out of this. I even know what you said offline about the Halo thing. So just your reaction on anything of that opening topic.
It's encouraging to see. Certainly, although I have been around long enough, as you have as well, Parris, to have developed a healthy skepticism over the years whenever Microsoft says we're taking games seriously this time. I was editor-in-chief of PC Gamer magazine during the 90s, from like 93 to 99. During that time, that was when, do you remember when they rolled out the whole Games for Windows initiative? And that was a big thing. And
I remember.
PC Games were shipping with the Games for Windows branding. They did a big deal with Computer Gaming World to turn it into Games for Windows magazine. It was like, no, we're taking it really seriously this time. And the idea was there would be like a common set of standards. And it's always been difficult because Microsoft don't really control PC gaming the way that, you know, it controls Xbox gaming, or Sony controls PlayStation gaming, where it's a closed platform. PC is an open platform, so it's a bit more the Wild West, and it's always been hard, I think, for Microsoft to really kind of figure out how to kind of like stake their claim on it. But when you think about it, Microsoft doesn't control the PC market, but they do control the Windows market, and Windows is really the platform on which these games are played. Some games, of course, do support Linux and SteamOS and some of the other OSs that are out there, but Windows gaming is where it's at. And I remember Games of Windows was meant to be this big effort to try and kind of standardize, almost make people think of like PCs and Windows like another console platform. Didn't really work. You know, Games for Windows, that whole initiative is a distant memory. if we're going to take it seriously ever, though, maybe now is the time. And I think it's partly because now their efforts to take PC gaming seriously are now tied directly to their Xbox efforts. When we talk about Game Pass, it's not just Xbox Game Pass, but Game Pass Ultimate obviously, covers Xbox and PC. And we're seeing increasingly, we've said, yes, they've got a lot more work to do in the PC space. Right now, Game Pass isn't as good a value for PC as it is on Xbox, but it seems like they are aware of that. They're making those efforts, and my ears, as you know, always perk up when I hear cross progression, cross play. That's like a big hobby. That's like my number one kind of. If I'm like campaigning for anything in the video game world, it's more cross progression, more cross play, taking down those barriers that segregate PlayStation gamers from Xbox gamers or Xbox gamers from Windows gamers. And anytime a game fully supports cross progression and cross play, I'm all for it. And I do think we are crossing that kind of Rubicon now, where I think like by the end of the year, if your game doesn't support cross progression and cross play, people are going to be asking you the reason why, because it's increasingly becoming the norm. And I think 2021 is historically going to be looked back on the year where finally those barriers, those cross platform barriers came down and we can all finally play with one another. And it's interesting to see that happen just within Microsoft's own ecosystem. Windows on one side, Xbox on the other. They do control both platforms, so there's really no excuse why these games shouldn't, why any barriers should exist between them. It looks like they are making a big effort to bring those barriers down and make Game Pass, again, we've talked so many times about how Game Pass, as you said at the top of it, it's not about devices. It's just about your games in more games in more places, or whether it's streaming on a phone or on your Xbox or on a PC or on a smart app, whatever it might be. They just want to get the games in front of you wherever you are. And it seems like this is a big step in that direction. So again, a little bit skeptical, just because again, I've been around long enough to see Microsoft, try to kind of make their mark in the PC gaming world in an official way. It's never really worked, but I think if it's going to work any time in history, it's now as part of, even if it's just piggybacked onto the back of the Xbox Game Pass freight train, which, as we know, is just going from strength to strength. So maybe this time.
Yeah. I think, like you're saying, the cross progression is the big thing that's coming out of this. But, before I jump into my thoughts, Andrew, I'm very curious what you think about this. In any of this PC news catch your eye?
Yeah, I love it because when you look at Steam, Steam is 75% of the market share right now, between 73 and 75%. And if you're going to give 18% back to the individuals that's going to publish on your platform, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Steam, I think between 2018 and 2019, they put out 16,000 games, 8,000 games in 2018, about 8,000 games in 2019 as well, just roughly a little bit more. I think it was 8,290 or something like that. For 2019. So when you look at numbers like that, and the company is actually taking the time to play the long game, because that's what we're really talking about, right? We're playing the long game for our reputation, and we don't want to go back to any E3 thing that looked really sketchy. We don't want to revisit anything in that nature. We want everything to be good. Every step that we make, we want that to be great moving forward. And I think that's a beautiful thing to see. And cross progression, I'm all down for that. Cross platform, I'm down for that, because most of my gaming is done on the PC right now. I don't have any new generation consoles, and I'm not in a rush to get one. So with that, and even with the Game Pass stuff, I've heard Gary talk about it. I believe it was specifically Gary, because I'm listening to voices and trying to map with the faces that incrementally all these companies want you to be subscribed to their stuff, right? And they're taking money from you wherever they can, but it's a business, right? That's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to profit, right? And the fact that they're doing everything that they can to say, hey, everything that we promised that we're going to do, we're going to do it. And this shows you incrementally every quarter or every half of a year, we're releasing the news to show you that we're doing exactly what we said we're going to do. So I love it.
No, that's great. Now, Gary, I want to kick it back over to you, because the other part of this was the Halo Master Chief Collection now has over 10 million players since its PC launch on Xbox Game Pass and on PC. So couple that with this cross progression news that we know Halo Infinite Day One, you're going to be able to play it console, cloud, PC, and all your progression is going to follow you everywhere. Is this kind of the master plan for them with Halo? They're going to use this, because going back to our conversation last week with free to play, it is confirmed that, the multiplayer is going to be 100% free to play when Halo Infinite comes out, no matter which platform that you're on. So is this like this announcement that they're talking about this commitment to PC gaming? You know, they're talking about how they're going to cross progression across all the platforms, and it looks like Halo's going to kind of lead the way in that effort. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Halo's obviously the perfect vehicle for them to do this. Not just because it is their standard bearer, right? It's obviously the biggest thing. Like, whose face is on the back of the Series X box, right? It's Master Chief's helmet, right? So it's you know, if you ask anyone, like if you say, what do you associate with Nintendo? Mario, right? Sony, I don't know. It could be like a bunch of different characters, but you know, I don't know if they have one that like stands out above the rest. But you know, we know that you know Nathan Drake and the other big Ratchet and Clank, and they have their own little mascots. With Microsoft, with Xbox, it's Halo, right? There's no question. They've got a bunch of cool franchises, but Halo kind of stands, you know, above the rest, and always has done. They launched their console. The whole Xbox initiative was launched with Halo as the standard bearer, and it always has been. So it makes sense commercially for it to be that, but it also just makes sense, like from a creative standpoint. I remember when Halo first came to the Xbox as a PC gamer. I remember me and a lot of other PC gamers were wondering, well, how long is this going to, will this ever come to PC? And eventually it did. It took Microsoft a while to bring it to PC, as I recall. And it always struck me as strange that it took them so long, because that style of gameplay, the first-person shooter, really was born on PC. And if you remember, for a long time before Halo came along, there were a lot of questions about whether that kind of first-person gameplay without a mouse and a keyboard on console could even be viable on console. And Halo was the game that kind of proved that it could be. But it's really a style of gameplay that began, and a lot of people still tell you is most truly belongs on PC with a mouse and keyboard. You know, whatever it is you're playing these days, whether it be PUBG or Warzone or Overwatch, like PC, I think still rules the roost when it comes to first-person games. So it took a while for Microsoft to get there, for Halo to kind of achieve the same kind of reputation and graphical and feature parity that it does on Xbox. For a while there, Halo kind of felt, the PC version kind of felt like the cheap knockoff, which again is weird, because you kind of feel like first-person shooters on PC should be the best, most powerful system, better control dynamic. You know, mouse and keyboard's always going to be better than gamepad ultimately. And now again, over the years, and I think largely due to Master Chief Collection, I think Halo now has kind of the same standing on PC that it does on Xbox. Like, it's a legit first-person shooter franchise on PC. It's a leading franchise the same way it is on Xbox. Took them a while to get there, but they are now there. And I think Halo Infinite, going into this next generation and launching everything day and date and the cross-platform and cross-progression, it kind of feels like they finally achieved what I think they've been trying to do, which is to get Halo to that same standing on PC that it enjoyed pretty much out of the gate day one on Xbox 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, my thing that I took out of this, just everything you said is pretty spot on, is they're clearly going by the article that Matt Booty put out. They are hopefully finally for the final time, they are actually making that true commitment into PC gaming. It really stood out to me that they're catering experiences for PC gamers. They're making sure that the games coming out of their studios will have the ultra wide support, obviously the mouse and keyboard support, DirectX 12. They're getting the tools in the developers' hands that they need. The fact that, like they're already doing on console, they're going to enable auto HDR for games and start rolling that out. So that's obviously going to help some of the legacy PC titles that'll be able to support that, you know, kind of give them a fresh coat of paint. But like we're saying with Halo, yeah, they're going after the PC gamer. They want to capture that market. And I did find it very interesting that they're matching what the Epic Game Store is doing as far as, you know, the cut, taking it up to 88% versus 70%. And they're being very aggressive, because while I don't think what Microsoft or Xbox is doing, like the app that they have right now, is going to be real competition for Steam anytime soon, I kind of go back to what Andrew was saying. It's a long game. They're laying the foundation so that when they do get their own Windows Store, their own Xbox app platform, you know, to a place where it is a legit competitor to what Steam has been doing, you know, just as a service, as a platform, you know, now maybe people are second guessing, do I get the game on Steam or do I get it through the Xbox app? Because like we've talked about this many times before, while I will use the Xbox app on PC, it is definitely not my first preference. It's probably third or fourth option that I would have of all the digital PC stores right now, because it still needs a lot of work. But I am happy to see that they're showing a commitment to this. I am happy to see, like I said, they're catering the experience to what someone would expect on a PC versus saying, hey, well, this is a game we have on the console. Yeah, the mouse and keyboard works with it. Just plug your controller in and it's basically replicating the console experience. No, they're going to give you PC-centric things that would matter to a PC gamer. So again, I like the aggression that Microsoft is having. And it is going to be interesting to see as we roll into the summer event and beyond into how true they are going to be to the words that they're talking right now. But so far, so good. I think it's great. Now, I want to roll
a little bit more on Halo real quick.
Sure, please. See, you're fitting in already. You jumped in. That's what I want. There you go.
I wanted to share this with you guys. ODST for me, as I remember it, correct me if I'm wrong, is a survival game, right? And in the fact that it's a survival game, when you think of Halo, the tagline "Combat Evolved," I think that would be a perfect way to go into a Warzone-like game mode for Halo Infinite, provided that it is released this year or whenever they decide to release a game mode like that. So I think the ODST dropping as a trailer, maybe starting with one and then zooming out a little bit to like 4 of them or something like that to promote that they would have a mode like that, I think would be fantastic. Combat Evolved for a Warzone-like game mode for Halo Infinite. Thoughts on that?
So that kind of builds off of what we talked about last week, because we were speculating about some type of BR mode that Halo would have. And yeah, I read your comments this week and everybody thinks we're crazy for it, but that's fine. But what you're saying kind of makes sense, that you would use the ODSTs as kind of a drop-in scenario for like this huge map with a bunch of players on it, things like that. I think that's very possible. They clearly have to be doing something other than what they've traditionally been doing with multiplayer. And it just goes back to what we were talking about last week. It's not about getting me to play Halo. It's not about getting Gary to play Halo or yourself. We're going to play it anyways. It's about my kids. My kids don't care about Halo anymore, or if they ever did, right? Because like my son as an example, because he's 15. I mean, he was born right before Halo 3 came out. So by the time he actually was old enough to start playing video games, Halo didn't have the impact that it did, during that Halo 2, Halo 3 era, right? So he's never had this attachment to it. And now he plays things like Fortnite, things like that. So you have to try and start catering to the younger generation, I think. And kind of what you're saying, Andrew, may be the way that they do it. But Gary, I am curious, since last week, since we talked about that, has your stance changed? You still think they're going to do something like that? Is there any variant to what Halo multiplayer is going to look like when we finally get it?
First of all, Parris, you got to stop reading the comments. It's empty calories, my man. It's empty calories. It's junk food. You're not doing yourself any good.
I know.
It's bad for you.
That's the only way I would ever want to be fat again. Is just by reading
those
the
comments, okay? Man. Just walk away. Okay, so I mean, that's surprising to me to hear that there were people in the comments saying that they thought we were crazy for arguing that Microsoft should and almost certainly will have some kind of battle royale mode in the new Halo Infinite, because again, the shooter landscape these days has evolved to a point where if you don't have it, people are going to ask the reason why. Again, just like crossplay, we've crossed that Rubicon. If you don't have it, people want to know the reason why. And I think like you're leaving something big on the table. And there's no. I asked you the question last week because I'm not a Halo expert the way that you and Mike are. I asked you, is there anything about the Halo, style of first-person shooter gameplay that would make it, incompatible with doing a battle royale mode? I don't think there is, right? I mean, it's pretty, Halo is, there's nothing weirdly unique about the way it does its shooter gunplay or anything that wouldn't work for a battle royale mode. And I remember Mike talking about some of the possibilities that were exciting him. So yeah, I would bet the farm on it. The only thing that I remember you and I having a disagreement was I think there's a possibility it might not come at launch. They might announce it, like they'll say, "I'm coming," in our first big update drop, we'll be bringing it in, because again, they might have to triage some of their development priorities to get this thing shipped on time for the next. So they cannot miss this next holiday window, right? They already pushed it almost a whole year. This is the 20th anniversary of Halo. This is the perfect opportunity for them to have the big Halo Fest spectacular. That's what you're going to see. Like in the third quarter of this year, the second half of this year, it's going to be impossible to get away from. It's going to be Halo, cornflakes, Halo aftershave, Halo toothpaste. It's going to be everywhere. There's going to be a big marketing effort to do exactly what you just touched on, what we all talked about last week, which is not just getting people like me and you and Mike who are shoo-ins to play the new Halo game to buy the new one, but this whole other market of kids now that are playing Fortnite and Apex and everything else that's out there, right? Who kind of came of age, even after the last Halo. Like Halo's not been around for a while, but you don't forget there's a big TV show coming. The new game is coming. It's the 20th anniversary. It is going to be wall-to-wall Halo. And this is their opportunity to get that Fortnite market, that Apex market, that young market that doesn't necessarily like Halo. Oh yeah, my dad plays that. Like they need to get past that, right? And they need to make it cool for young kids to play. And Battle Royale is what young kids are playing. For that reason alone, it would seem foolish if they're not going to serve that market. So I've still got all my chips on that one. I would love to hear the counter argument. What's the counter argument?
Well, I just think, and again, I know I shouldn't be reading the comments, so shame on me. But I think the counter argument has been, and Andrew, please, I want you to jump in on this too. But the counter argument's been, well, they don't need Battle Royale because the traditional Halo multiplayer is still good. So why are you adding in a Battle Royale? And not that it has to be a direct copy of Fortnite or Apex Legends, but they got to do something. Like, look at all the excitement around Apex, this new season that's coming out. Everyone's been talking about that, right? I can't imagine that you know 343 sitting looking at that and thinking, well, what worked 5 years ago still works today, so we don't need to change anything. There has to be some variation to this. So I'd be surprised if there's not some kind of, not big team. It's got to go beyond big team battle. It's got to be something huge map, ton of players on it. You're squadding up, whatever they want to call it. But it's got to be something that's going to, like, even my youngest daughter just jumped into Fortnite as an example. I had to create her a gamer tag, and she's in now in the Epic thing, and she's playing Fortnite. But she's not asking me about Halo. None of them are. That doesn't register with them. So I kind of go into what you're saying, Gary. I think they got to strike while the iron is hot this holiday with everything that you're saying, the TV show, the 20-year anniversary, launching a new game. If they're going to capture a new audience, that's kind of why I think if there's some new multiplayer mode, it can't be delayed. It needs to come out when everyone's talking about it, because that's where you're going to have the most eyeballs on Halo is going to be this November. So I think whatever new thing that they plan on having, they better have it ready to go, because I think if they delayed it to the spring, they're going to lose that momentum. But before we wrap up Halo, because Andrew, you kind of started this conversation, so I want you to finish it. Any last thoughts or anything you want to add to the conversation we're having right now?
So Battle Royale, when done well, it's really good.
Yeah.
Right. And Microsoft has the resources for that. And in a universe like Halo, I think it's a perfect fit. And all the Battle Royale games that we enjoy today, they coexist just fine. So I don't see a reason why the Halo team couldn't do the same.
Yeah, I mean, so you actually kind of lead me into something I want to talk about later, but I'll bring it up to you right now, just specifically on Halo and their multiplayer reveal. I mean, is this something, in your opinion, they need to showcase? Like, make a big deal out of this. Like I said, they're going to have open beta flights and things like that. I mean, how important is it going to be for them to get the messaging out about whatever potentially this new multiplayer mode will be for Halo Infinite?
It should be a surprise, but it should be separate from the multiplayer component of the game. I don't think it should be exactly the same, because if we're not expecting it to be good and it's actually a surprise and it's really good, then the marketing run, or emotional run, if you want to say that, leading towards it is going to be even better. But I don't think they should be announced at the same time. But in terms of like a teaser, I think they should do it separate from the main multiplayer component of the game. And they have the resources to do it well, so I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Right on, fair enough. Well, good. So I think that's enough Halo talk for this episode, because I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more coming here in the next few weeks. So I want to keep this going, and I want to run right into story number 2. And story number 2 is about Knockout City launching on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and EA Play on May 21st. So this is kind of a big deal, because now we're seeing another example of a third-party game coming day one to Xbox Game Pass. So, and this will also be a part of EA Play Pro, I believe it is their premium one on PC. But Andrew, I'll kick this off to you. Thoughts on this? Have you checked out Knockout City? Do you have any interest in the game? And what do you think the ramifications of this coming to Game Pass day one?
I think it's a beautiful thing where we're seeing a lot of games just being announced in the subscription first. Now, I don't have Game Pass, but as I think about more and more, if I do decide to pick it up, is going to be for the PC, right? And I think that luring individuals to be able to play a game on a particular platform, like a Game Pass, I think it's fantastic. I don't have any real objections towards it. And I think that the more that they do things like this is going to entice me, someone who does not have Game Pass at all right now, to consider, well, do I really need it, right? And I think that's the conversation for me. I'm a tough sell when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah, we have the Netflix, the Hulu, and the things like that. But when it comes to certain things, I usually want to buy the game, whether it's $70 or not, right? I rather do that than have it on a pass where it's gated for me to, if I stop paying, then I don't have access to it anymore. So I think it's a beautiful thing that they're introducing games like that on a particular pass. I don't have any objections towards it.
Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in this because I want to get Gary's reaction to Knockout City coming to Game Pass, but I want to deep dive into the fact that you don't have Game Pass. So we're gonna circle back on that. But Gary, your thoughts on Knockout City coming to Game Pass?
I bumped up against that as well. We'll litigate that in a moment, I'm sure. Yeah. But for right now, look, purely from a selfish as a Game Pass user, I'm excited anytime something comes to Game Pass. It's more value for me. Like MLB The Show is a game that I might not have paid cash for, but I got it on Game Pass and I've really enjoyed it. We've been talking just over the past week about how my daughter and I were she'll go, so like, can we see what's on Game Pass? Like, she understands that that's like Netflix now. Like, you can just go, it's like a buffet, right? You know, it's not like ordering off the menu, buying a game, one at a time. It's like you just go to this huge Netflix like buffet of all these things that are available and are priced into the subscription. And we discovered a couple of really fun games this weekend that, again, I might not have paid $20 for. It's like, you don't know, what if it's no good? But we actually ended up having a great time with some Game Pass games. And, this idea of it being this kind of limitless discovery engine is really kind of the true kind of power behind why we think Game Pass is a cool thing. It's been really interesting, though, not just in terms of Game Pass, but also in terms of the mobile app economy and everything, like free apps versus paid apps and microtransactions and all the different ways now that games can be monetized beyond just you paying, $50 or $5 for a mobile game or whatever, and just, off you go. We're obviously, we're well past that now in terms of there are so many different ways to monetize games. And what's been fascinating about it is it's having a real effect in not just in the way that games are marketed and sold, but the way in which they're designed. Right, we're seeing we've been seeing for years now, and there's been quite a lot of aggressive pushback against it. Games that are being designed more to monetize themselves on the back end beyond just the $60 that you pay for them, with cosmetics, with pay to win mechanics, with loot boxes, anything that can get you to keep paying money into that game even after you've bought it. That is a thing that we're in the middle of right now, where game companies and publishers and developers are constantly trying different ways to get money out of you, and the media and gamers, people like us, are telling them, yeah, we like this, but we don't like it when you do that. Like, try a bit more of this and a bit more of that. And again, we're still trying to figure out ways to make money out of games, and gamers are trying to figure out how, what they're comfortable with, and we're still learning, and we still keep seeing all these unpleasant examples. I did see, when we talk about, we're all big Game Pass fans here. When we've talked about it in the past, I have seen some pushback from people who have said, well, this is gonna result in games being more microtransaction-y, right? Because they just want to get the game into your hands for free with Game Pass, and then once they've got you and they've got you hooked on the game, they're going to start squeezing you for and they're going to start nickel and diming you with all these cosmetics and DLC and things like that. I think there is some legitimacy behind that concern, but it's going to be down to the individual developers and the publishers, and maybe who knows, some kind of overall code of conduct or standards that you have to reach to be on Microsoft's platform. For example, like if you want to be on Apple Arcade, which is like Apple's version of Game Pass, right? You pay $5 a month and you get all these games like in a Netflix style buffet. Apple does not let you do microtransactions or sell additional. It's like once you get it, you've got it, and you'll never be asked to pay another cent. So you have to kind of hit that standard. Microsoft already has a million different standards you have to hit in order for them to accept your game to publish on their platform. They could add that. If you want to be on Game Pass, that's fine, but here are the parameters through which you're allowed to monetize your game on the back end. We don't like this kind of monetization. We don't like loot boxes. We like cosmetics, but we don't like pay to win. Who knows? It may actually fall to Microsoft to police some of this stuff and make sure that Game Pass games don't get a bad rep for, oh yeah, it's quote unquote free on Game Pass, but they get you on the back end. That's something that I think could be quite dangerous for Microsoft if they don't nip that in the bud. And again, it's still so nascent, it's still so early, it's hard to see. But again, I would hate that. I would hate to see that happen. We love Game Pass as a discovery engine, but I would hate it if the kind of games that end up on Game Pass start getting defined as, oh, I see. You get it's like one of those. It's like a mobile app. Like they say it's free, but then they start crunching you for money, additional money right away. I would hate to. That has already kind of given the whole mobile gaming ecosystem a very, very bad name. I'm always wary of free apps now because it's like, yeah, but if nothing in life comes for free, right? We've all been around long enough to know that there's a healthy skepticism that when you download a free app, say, wait, how are you making money? Either through really obtrusive ads or really, really, annoying. Hey, it's going to take you 10 years to build this wall, but you can build it right now if you just buy some of our, bloop coins or whatever it is they're selling you this week. That is something that I think Microsoft needs to make sure doesn't happen with Game Pass, even as Game Pass lends itself to that kind of back end monetization. Again, that's why there's a good reason why Fortnite's free, because they just want to get into his hands as many people as possible. Same with Apex Legends, they want to get it into his hands as many people as possible because they know there's money to be made on the back end. Game Pass offers that same kind of opportunity, but there is also the potential for Game Pass games to get a bad name if Microsoft allows that kind of exploitative game design to happen. And I hope that they rein that in and don't let that happen.
Yeah, completely agree on that. And Andrew, I'm actually very curious to get your thoughts on this too. But I'll just simply say the other way I think this would get policed, because like you said, I think Microsoft would have a responsibility on their own to what type of games are being added to their subscription service. But I would think even from a third party and the indie standpoint, they're also trying to sell these games on other platforms as well, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, whatever the case may be. So if you load a bunch of microtransactions into your game just because it's on Game Pass, but then you're also having those same microtransactions in the game as it's being sold for $40, $50, $60 retail on other platforms, you're just hurting yourself. Because I think what happens then, people aren't going to want to buy it because why would I buy that? There's all these microtransactions in it. And the beauty of Game Pass is if I don't like something, I move on. I'm already in the subscription. So it doesn't, if you have a game that I feel like you're just beating me over the head with microtransactions, you know what? I'm done. I'll move on and go play something else. To me, that's kind of I always equate it to just because you're in Game Pass doesn't mean you're instantly a success, because you still have to, the game has to sell itself to the consumer at that point. You have to earn my time and my engagement because there's so many other things that could take up my time and engagement that are available to me at the same time. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But Andrew, I want to throw this to you, because if you have any reaction on what we just talked about with Game Pass, but also, yeah, we want to deep dive into why you don't have Game Pass. And not that this is a good or a bad thing, it's just more of a curiosity thing. So
sure.
Curious your thoughts.
So who's first?
Go for it. Whatever one you want to tackle first.
All right, so Rebellion for the Game Pass, and I'll put a pause on that and come back to the I'll go to the microtransactions. I think that microtransactions still have like a cloud over it a little bit, and companies have to really take those things under serious advisement if they decide to put it into their games. And I definitely agree with you, as you said. If you want your game to do well, you can't just rest on your laurels, if you will, and just hope that things are just going to happen if you don't necessarily market your game and put the effort to do it yourself, right? Whether that's a personal brand or an indie project or whatever you want to call it, you still have to market and stuff like that. So those are my thoughts on it. Quick thoughts on that. Game Pass. So let's talk about Game Pass.
Yes,
Rebellion is really where I stand on it right now. Right? Everyone's talking about it. I don't want to jump in because I'm still collecting data, if you will. So as I'm doing that, when I see things like Knockout City coming, and it's those things are very, very attractive for me to consider jumping in. So even with recently April, I believe it was April 12th was when the sale ended for Halo Master Chief Collection, right? And I was like, okay, I already have the game on Xbox. I want the game on PC. The game is $40. I have to take the plunge. So I bought it again. So typically when I do that, now I have 2 copies of the game. I take the other copy, I'll give it to the library. They index it so people can rent those games for free. So I feel good that I'm doing something great for the community, right? So so I think it's rebellion. That's the immediate answer. And I do not, and everyone that's excited about it, I never want to talk bad about the fact that they're excited about it, if that makes sense.
Right. No, it does.
I'm
No,
glad that you're excited about it, right? I'm excited about Netflix. I'm excited about Hulu, and the packaging of that is very similar, right? I don't watch everything on Netflix, but I know that it's there for me to test things out. And if I don't like this particular season of whatever, like you said, you move on. There's plenty of other things to look at, plenty of things to engage in. So it's really rebellion and just collecting data. But I'm glad that everyone's happy about it. But if I do end up doing it, which is kind of leaning towards that, but I don't know how soon, it'll be on the PC side.
No, that's fair enough. And again, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. Clearly, Xcast has the reputation of, we're the Game Pass cheerleaders because, we talk about it all the time. People get mad at me on Twitter talking about it a lot, but I understand the hesitation from people wanting to invest in that service. Totally valid for everything that you just talked about. And they are still in prove it mode. We talk about this a lot. While the service is great, the potential of it is great, the tangible it's in my hands value from their internal studios still is not there, in my opinion. I think we're about to get there. It's getting close. Obviously, the summer is really going to reveal a lot, but things that Gary was talking about with the microtransaction, there's definitely still a wait and see on it, and I completely understand it. I guess I'd rather just be a cheerleader because I'm all in. I think it's great, but not everyone does, and I think that's fair and all that's very valid. So, I understand your hesitation. Again, this is why I love you, because that's how your mind thinks. And I am not shocked at all that you think that way. And that's good. That's good because you need a skeptic. You need people that are on the fence. You need these companies, to basically earn our money, right? So if there's ever hesitation on things like this, you absolutely should wait and see how it plays out. Again, like you even said, Andrew, I think Microsoft is playing the long game with a lot of this stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out here over the next few months and years. Now, one more thing, and then we'll move on to the next topic, because we actually got a question. And this one came from BJ Bernardo. I believe that is patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think that's it, top of my head. But BJ Bernardo is saying, is Knockout City that addictive family game that many think Xbox is missing? Is the fact it's coming out on Game Pass day one an indication or another step in EA's bigger games like NHL, Madden, or Battlefield coming on day one? Thanks, BJ. Andrew, I'll actually throw this back to you because you are a very analytical mind, and I'm very curious what you think. So the first question about Knockout City being that addictive family game, do you think this is something that Xbox is missing?
I think it's definitely something that Xbox is missing, and I think it's definitely a test for what is to come, right? So when we look at even going to our favorite burger spot, there's limited series of things that they announce to see how it's going to do in that particular town for a couple of weeks. And if it does well, then they consider adding subsets of that or titles. Let's just use the gaming, go back to that real quick, similar to that to see if it's going to continue to do well. And again, we see a lot of tests like that happen in the game industry, and for good reason, because you don't want to invest so much money into something and realize that, hey, we pulled the trigger on that too soon. And now you have to figure out how you're going to course correct when it comes to things like that. So I think that it's a beautiful game. No one's denying that. It looks extremely fun. And it plays the pocket for the family stuff perfectly. And if it is the prelude to things to come, I think it's actually fantastic.
Now, Gary, I want to throw part two over to you, and then we'll circle back to you, Andrew. So do you think this Knockout Cities with EA Play, is this just part one in a bigger plan in a partnership with Xbox and EA, potentially bringing more of their games over to Game Pass on day one?
I think it's more just a recognition that the business model for these kinds of games is fairly well settled at this point. If you have a game that you feel like there's a good chance you can monetize on the back end with cosmetics, V-Bucks, whatever it is in your own particular Call of Duty points. I know that all of these games have these mechanics. Whatever Apex has its version of it, I'm sure. I don't play that game, but I'm sure they have all kinds of ways you can buy things on the back end of the game. The first thing you got to do is just get it in as front as many players as possible, and the way that you do that is, of course, you make it free. This is now a pretty standard established model. Fortnite is free. Call of Duty Warzone is free. Apex Legends is free. They just announced that Halo Infinite multiplayer is going to be free. PUBG is not free, but it's cheap. It's like $15, and I imagine it'll probably end up as a free-to-play game at some point down the road, as well as its business model continues to evolve. So if you've got one of these type of games, like all these other games are showing you the way, right? Like how much money does Fortnite? Apex is very successful. PUBG, Halo, these are all like super successful games, and this is now just the model. And every game's going to have its own way of monetizing itself on the back end. It'll be interesting to see what Knockout City's own unique way of doing that is. Is it going to check that box for Microsoft? We talk every week on the show about the boxes that Microsoft needs to check. They need their, where's their Ratchet and Clank, right? Bring back Banjo-Kazooie. We can't do an Xcast without saying it. You've got to check those boxes. They need a cutesy platformer. They need their, what is their Fortnite or whatever. And this has the potential to do it. Again, I didn't play the alpha, the beta or whatever it was they put out there, so I don't know. We talked about this last week. It looks like it's checking all the right boxes. It's kid friendly. It's more towards that Splatoon, Fortnite end of the market than PUBG and Warzone and some of the games that parents might not want to see their kids playing. So I feel like on paper, this could, we could be living in a world where a year from now we're talking about how Knockout City rules the universe and has knocked Fortnite off its perch, right? I guess that's unlikely just because that's such a huge thing to attain when you look at what it's going up against. But on paper, who knows? You never know. Who knew Fortnite? Fortnite was a dead game, and then they brought in Battle Royale, and now look at it rules the universe. So you just never know what's going to be around the corner. It does feel very, very calculated. Knockout City looks like a game that was made in a room where they looked at what all the other games in that space are doing and said, okay, let's copy. Here's what we've learned. This works, but this doesn't. Let's take a little from column A, a little from what Apex did well, a little from what Splatoon does well, a lot from what Fortnite does well, put it all together and try and create something new out of that. But standing on the shoulders of these games that have already shown other companies, here's how you make $1 billion. You just do it this way. With Knockout City feels very much like a game that has been created out of the success of these other games and what those developers think they can learn from it. So the table is set, I think, for a game like Knockout City to be the next big thing. But again, no one in this business, it's just like Hollywood, right? Nobody knows anything. Who knows? It could be dead. It could be dead on arrival, or it could be a Fortnite competitor. Again, you look at the ingredients and you think, yeah, maybe. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll definitely find out. Now, Andrew, to wrap this up, I'll throw it back to you and I'll frame it this way. Just in general with EA, do you think they need to bring more of their titles day one to Game Pass? Is that a viable thing for them? Or is this, like Gary saying, could just potentially just be a one-off?
I think top of mind is important, but I think course correction is also important, right? So the faster that they make the decisions on bringing a game or not bringing a game, I think it's going to be to their benefit. That's extremely important because when you look at a lot of the companies and the adjustments that they're making, if it's speedboat versus ship, they're going to have challenges, right? It's all about it's the times that we're in right now. You have to make the decisions very quickly. I know we're in this state where we're getting vaccinated and doing all that stuff, but course correction is extremely important, and that's the overall general idea there.
Right on, fair enough. So we're gonna move on, and we're gonna go to the next story. This is my favorite topic for the show because we're gonna dive into Rumorville. We're gonna talk about some rumors with Starfield and Forza Horizon 5. But before we do that, let's take a break. And let's get a word from our sponsors. This week, Xcast is brought to you by Upstart, Fitbod, and Dr. Squatch. First up, we have Upstart. When it comes to paying off debt, it can often feel like an uphill battle. High interest rates resulting in minimum monthly payments keeps you in an endless cycle of debt. Upstart can help you get ahead. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple, fixed monthly payment. Unlike other lenders, Upstart looks at more than just your credit score, like your income and employment history. This means they can offer smarter rates with trusted partners. When Greg moved to San Francisco 50 years ago, the loan he took out didn't factor in anything but his credit score. He got a terrible rate, and Upstart could have really helped him. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000, and you can receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny. Next up, we have Fitbod. You know how doing the same exercises can slowly but surely kill your motivation to keep going? Well, don't get stuck doing the same workouts. Making progress towards the future you means overcoming new challenges. Fitbod creates a fitness program that continually adapts with new exercises and dynamic intensity that adjusts to how you're progressing. So you'll be challenged to meet your goals at your own pace. There's no perfect body that everyone can achieve, but what we can do is continually become a better version of ourselves. No workout is one size fits all. Fitbod creates a fitness program that continually adapts to you, so you stay challenged with new exercises, pacing, and intensity based on where you are and where you want to be. The one and only Gia Parris has been doing this during quarantine, and it has helped her stay motivated, fit, and active. Fitbod understands that the path to achieving your best looks different for everyone. Fitbod creates a program based on your unique body, experience, and environment. Their algorithm uses data and analytics to help you build on your last workout to maximize your results. Whether you're exercising 3 days a week or twice a day, every workout is scientifically proven to be better than the last. Fitbod workouts are balanced to avoid overworking muscles with varied exercises to keep you sharp. No equipment, no worries. Fitbod has body weight routines for those looking to get fit at home or on the go. Fitbod is super easy to use and even has HD video tutorials to make learning new exercises a breeze. It integrates with other fitness and health apps like Apple Health, Fitbit, and Stravia. Personalized training can be tough on the budget, but Fitbod is only $9.99 a month or $59.99 a year. Sign up now and you'll get 25% off your membership. Pick up the pace on your fitness journey with Fitbod today, and your future self will thank you. Get 25% off your membership at fitbod.me/KF Games. That's 25% off at fitbod.me/KF Games. And finally, thank you to Dr. Squatch. Okay, real talk here. That soap or body wash you're using, it's crap. It's packed with harsh chemicals, synthetic detergents, and it's brutal on your skin. If you're ready to step up your game to soap that's natural and great for your skin and doesn't smell like a middle schooler locker room, Dr. Squatch is where it's at. Dr. Squatch is changing the way men approach hygiene and their natural personal care products that make you feel like a man and smell like a champion. All of Dr. Squatch's soaps are made in the USA using the finest ingredients nature has to offer. That means natural cleansers and nourishing ingredients that are actually great for your skin. Dr. Squatch's soaps come in a huge range of natural, manly scents that are going to transform your shower, whether it's the best-selling pine tar or scents like bay rum and cedar citrus. You're never going to have a boring shower again. Blessing's first time using Dr. Squatch could only be described as heavenly, and says the grapefruit IPA scent is to die for. If you really want to make it easy on yourself, you can also subscribe to Dr. Squatch just like the hundreds of thousands of other guys out there. Every month, fresh bars of Squatch show up at your door, and it's super easy. They've also got a full lineup of personal care goods like deodorant, hair care, and toothpaste. Right now, new customers can get 20% off on orders of $20 or more when they go to drsquatch.com and enter code DSCKF Games. That's drsquatch.com, code DSCKF Games for 20% off on orders of $20 or more. And now back to the show. All right, and we are back with Kind of Funny Xcast. And like I said, let's take a dive into Rumorville. So there's been a couple of dueling rumors that have been going on here from some reputable people out there in the industry. You know, shout out to our good friend Jez Corden and Jeff Grubb. They've been kind of leading the charge on this. Mr. Matty Plays as well has had some insight. So let's start with Forza Horizon 5 more specifically. So it's looking like Forza Horizon 5 will be shown at E3. Again, this is all rumor and speculation. We're in the Conspiracy Steve segment of the show, but it is looking like Forza Horizon 5 potentially is going to be shown at the E3 event that Xbox is going to have. And there's been a lot of talk about the setting, and that is Mexico. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Andrew, because I'm curious. I actually don't know if you're into the Forza Horizon franchise at all, but if you are, what does the news of Mexico mean to you? Is that something that excites you?
Not as much as I should be in terms of the actual series itself, but I'm wondering, is it really that much of a factor for individuals where the setting is? So I'm just thinking out loud here. I think Mexico is a beautiful place, right? It's a beautiful place, whether it was Mexico or Japan or wherever the place might be. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love cars. You know, I'm a car person, and I think that the setting is beautiful. I have no objections on the setting itself.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess let's look. Now I'm gonna litigate you a little bit because I wanted more out of you on that one. So I'm gonna throw it back again. Forza Horizon as the franchise. Are you into that at all? Is that something that you've played in the past?
I've played it in the past. Correct.
You have. Fan or not?
I love it.
Okay,
but I haven't gotten a recent game in the last 2 games. So
gotcha.
I don't love it that much, right?
Well,
but it is.
If you're on Game Pass, you could be playing. But anyways, but no. The reason I'm asking, because to me, I guess I'll just throw it back to myself really quick. To me, them going to potentially to Mexico, I think is a big deal. I think part of the appeal of the Forza Horizon series so far has been the location and the settings that you get, because you know. It's obviously a racer at its heart, but some of the free roaming that you're able to do in the visuals that Playground Games has been able to have in these games has been a selling point. So when I think of a location like Mexico, a place that we really haven't gone in video games at all, I think it gives them a unique opportunity to kind of set up Forza Horizon 5 as a showcase title for them, at least from a visual standpoint, this holiday. Not to mention, like you said, you are a car guy, so just the various cars and things that potentially would show up as well. So again, I'll throw it back to you. So none of that moves the needle for you.
It does, and again, as we were saying before, more of that stuff makes me want to consider the Game Pass on the PC. So it's like everything I see, I'm like, okay, so how much longer am I going to wait? You know, and I think that's what's happening right now. The tension, not tension is the wrong word here. A tug of war of making a decision on that. It's a beautiful setting. It's a beautiful game, and you know, I know you have a car. You're a car guy. You know, I have a Beamer. The ultimate driving machine. So I love the sound and those things when it comes to cars. So yeah, it definitely is. I'm considering that as well.
Right on. And Mr. Gary Whitta, your thoughts on potentially Forza Horizon 5 being in Mexico?
I like the Horizon games. I like them more than the motorsport ones, because you know me, I'm always more inclined towards the accessible pick up and play. I think the whole reason why the Horizon games exist is like people want to play people want to drive those beautiful cars, but they don't want to deal with all the, spark plug ratchets,
the sim stuff,
the simmy stuff that I don't find the motorsport games accessible at all. I know that there are people that love those games for the same reason people love the Gran Turismo games, but it's exactly what puts me off. I just want to pick up the controller and drive, and Horizon exists for precisely that reason. And they have done a great job, I think. I played the last couple, and Australia, was a beautiful place. As a Brit, the last one, in the British, countryside was very recognizable. They did it. So wow, it felt just like being back home, driving around those kind of English country roads and stuff like that. So that was really appealing. It's an interesting thing. Like, how do they, like, when they all sit around, like in the Horizon, development offices, like, okay, where do we want to go next? Like, what are the things that play a part in that decision? Like, what's going to feel very different from the last one, right? Because you don't want people to look at it and go, it's just like the last one. What are some of the beautiful places in the world that we can go that are going to, offer players that sense of like fantasy escape? Like, you would never get to do this in real life, right? But this video game's going to let you do it. So Mexico, I think, potentially offers that, right? It's a different color palette. It's a different vibe. You can see how that, kind of South American, Latin American flavor would just kind of permeate, in the music, the culture, like the vibrancy of it. You can just feel like, yeah, I totally see it. In terms of the existence of the rumor itself, I'm not terribly impressed by that being a rumor. It's just, when you think about what are Microsoft going to show at the next thing, the first thing you think of is, well, the next iteration of their key franchises, right? Halo, Gears, Forza. You just, those are the first boxes that you check in terms of what you hope or expect to see. So I don't think anyone's jaw's going to hit the floor if they announce Horizon 5, at the E3. And I was going, who saw that coming? Yeah. Well, we kind of all did. Like, no one's that shocked, but like, tell us the details. Where's it going to be? What are some of the things that will elevate this, make it different from the last one? Again, once you have Game Pass, it's not a difficult sell, right? Because you basically, your purchase of that game is already priced in. It's just a question of whether or not it can get you to click the install button. But then again, there's also plenty of people that aren't on Game Pass, and it is an a la carte purchase for them, and they have to sell it to those people as well, particularly on PC, where Game Pass doesn't have the same kind of footprint right now that it has on Xbox. So if it's somewhere like Mexico, I'd be excited. I mean, again, I actually don't care that much. Like, I was slightly more inclined to look at the last one just because, as a Brit, it interests me that it was set, in the country of my birth. But other than that, like, if you said to me, like, where, like, what's on your wish list, like, where would you next like to see the Horizon franchise go geographically? Honestly, my answer is, like, I just don't care, as long as it's something interesting and cool. Take me someplace I haven't been before. Take me someplace that has like a flavor that gives me a sense of place, right? And that's why I think, like, Mexico could be a good vibe, because again, when you think about going to a place like that, you instantly think about all of the culture and the music and the aesthetic that's unique to that part of the world. And I feel like the whole game would just be kind of dripping with that kind of Latin American flavor, and would just kind of feel like those Horizon games, I think, are almost meant to feel like travelogues, right? You go to Australia, you go to the UK. Yeah. It's almost like you're driving these cars, but it's also about a sense of place. It's almost like taking a virtual vacation to some of the most beautiful parts of the world. And with that in mind, so Latin America would make perfect sense in that spirit.
And I would just follow up on everything that both of you just said. And probably the one thing, like, I do think the Mexico location, that's something I would absolutely love to see. But I'll take it back to what Matt Booty was talking about in the Xbox Wire today, and just simply say that they're trying to build communities around the games and not the platforms, right? Like you mentioned, selling this to a PC crowd. Ironically enough, Horizon 4 came to Steam, what was that, couple months ago, and it's been a huge seller on it. So there's definitely an audience out there on the PC that wants to play these games, and I think they have an opportunity with 5 to really continue that momentum and capture that audience. But I think the biggest thing I want to see is them kind of improve some of just the online community features, and really, kind of promote that kind of race club feel, where me and all my buddies are getting together, and we're going, literally racing through Mexico together, and taking on various challenges and things like that. And obviously the Drivatar AI system that they have, maybe there'll be some new improvements. They can add that into the game as well. So, I mean, like you said, it's obviously worst kept secret ever that Forza Horizon 5 is coming. So I won't be shocked no matter what the location will be when they announce it, but definitely looking forward to it. Now, The other rumor I want to jump on, and Andrew, since you're here, I'm definitely want to get your thoughts first, just for a different perspective, is Starfield. So various people out there have been talking about Starfield. Is it coming this year? Is it not? Are they going to show it? There was, I guess, some copyright thing that just happened that was dated 2021. And, the internet sleuths kind of went back into the legacy of Bethesda, and they've seen when other games have been copyrighted for a year, that's when they would show them, like 76 and Fallout 4 as examples were of those. And a lot of people obviously are expecting this now with Starfield, that it's got a copyright date for 2021. Again, don't think it would be a shock to see Starfield at E3 this year, but a lot of the quote unquote rumors have been that both Bethesda and Microsoft are really pushing to get it out this year in holiday 2021, which does surprise me a little bit, just with the pandemic and everything. But if the game is truly ready, and we know Todd Howard likes to show a game and then put it out a few months later. So if they're confident that it's ready, I'm excited to see it. But Andrew, I'll throw this over to you. What are your thoughts on Starfield? Have you kind of been keeping up with it over the past few years? Like, what are your expectations for it? Is this something that's on your radar and would excite you to come out this holiday?
Yeah, I just picked up Everspace not too long ago. So the fact that they did some SpaceX research for Starfield really has me very, very excited. The RPG element of it, of course. I think that they should wait because of the time that we're in, and I think if anything that we can learn from games that were so massive that didn't do well in recent months, I think that we should take examples from that and say, you know what, there's no need to rush, right? Let's just make sure everything is done, and then from there, then we'll release it. So I'm not necessarily looking for it this year, but I'm definitely looking for, Halo. We talked about that already, but I'm not looking for it. But it looks very, very promising. It's an original IP, from my understanding, based on the research that I've done for Starfield, and I'm excited about it. The space stuff is really intriguing, but I'm not expecting it this year. And if it does, that's great, but I'm not looking for it this year.
Right on. Gary, I'll throw this over to you, and I'll phrase it a little differently because we've obviously talked this stuff to death in the past. But part of it is this debate. Like, first of all, we all agree Starfield is going to be Xbox exclusive. I don't think anyone thinks it's going to be multi-plat at this point. But there's been this conversation now. Should Starfield still be like Xbox One and Series X, or should they make this a quote-unquote next-gen only game? Do you think that's even in the pipeline for them?
A few things. First of all, save the time code because I'll just save it. I'll say it right now. You won't see Starfield this year. It will not come out this year
at all. We won't even see it.
No, you'll. I think at E3 you'll see gameplay. They'll move the goalposts forward in terms of getting us closer and getting us excited. I think you'll see gameplay. I think we'll know a lot more about Starfield by the end of the year, but we won't be playing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Clip that because you can throw it in my face when it does come out at Christmas, but it won't.
I took the time code for you, Gary. So
thank you very much.
They're saved for everybody.
I really don't think it will, and I'll tell you why. None of these games exist in a vacuum, and the reason why you won't see Starfield this holiday is because Halo Infinite's going to be sucking up all the oxygen out of the room. Again, I'll go back to what we said earlier. This is not Halo Infinite's not just about introducing a new Halo game. It is about introducing the Halo universe for the first time to a whole new audience of gamers that have grown up with, thinking of Halo as something that their dad plays. Think about what Disney did with Star Wars, right? When Force Awakens came out, that wasn't just they already knew they had us, right? The old Star Wars fans who grew up on the original movies, of course we're going. But for a whole new universe of kids who grew up like aware of Star Wars, but like, again, that's something my dad was into or my parents were into or whatever. They had to reintroduce Star Wars to a whole new generation. They had to win over a whole new generational audience. And you could see the way that they built those movies with the new young, Star, not just relying on the old actors by bringing a new generation. It was all about, here's Star Wars for a new generation of audiences. This needs to be Halo for a new generation of audiences. Microsoft is a massive company, but they only have so many people working in their marketing department. They only have so many marketing dollars to spend. And we just talked about, again, the Q3, Q4 is going to be all Halo all the time,
right?
And start, but at the same time, Todd Howard's going to be saying, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to play. We're not going to be releasing this as like the other game that's also coming out, in Halo Shadow. He's going to want to clear the decks for that marketing effort and to be all Starfield all the time, maybe in Q1 of next year or whatever. I don't know where they are in development, but I'd be amazed, especially with COVID and everything, if Starfield is even ready to launch this year. But even if it were, if I were Phil Spencer, I would hold it and say, like, even if it's ready to go for Christmas, let Halo have the holiday window, and then it'll be all, and then like Q1, Q2 will just be like, we'll go nuts on Starfield. But those games are too big to come out in the same window as one another, I think, because they'll just cannibalize one another. People only have so much money to spend over the holiday period. And again, I know they'll both be on Game Pass, but again, there's a lot of people that aren't on Game Pass, or especially on PC. Because again, I think, I'm sure this is what you meant, Parris, but when you said Starfield would be an Xbox exclusive, it's going to be on Windows as well, right?
Of course.
So, it's going to be exclusive to kind of the platforms that Microsoft owns and controls. But again, a lot of people that are going to be shelling out money for Halo or and then they're not going to be in a position where they're asking gamers to make a choice. But again, it's just those games are so big that either one of them is going to suck all the oxygen out of the room and be like, this is the game we want you to look at. I don't think they're going to cannibalize their own audience and cannibalize their own marketing efforts, where they're asking you to look at two titanically big games coming out for the holiday period. This holiday's all going to be all about Halo Infinite, and I think you're going to see Starfield be like the big game of like Q1 or Q2 next year. It used to be, we've moved on. It used to be that the biggest games of the year only came out in the holiday period. Now, huge games can come out any time of the year. It's a 12-month rolling calendar where you never know when the next big game is going to be coming out. So that's my prediction. Halo for this holiday. Starfield will be, I think, my best guess is first half of next year.
Yeah, and I completely agree.
Thoughts,
no, go ahead. Please jump in.
Outriders didn't have any competition, right?
Correct.
Because of when it launched.
And look at how well that's doing.
Titanfall 2 did when it launched. Titanfall 2 should have been pushed. And I think that when you look at examples like that over and over again, we see it all the time. Just learn from what we've already seen so you don't make the same mistakes.
Completely agree. And I was going to add to that great point that you made, because we're even seeing the precedent right now, like you said, with a game with Outriders. It came out at the perfect time. You go back in time and look at Titanfall 2, and I even remember back then, I go, why in the hell are they putting out Titanfall 2 2 weeks after their own Battlefield game and 2 weeks before Call of Duty? This will be a disaster. And it was. And the irony of all irony is, I don't know if you've seen the news right now, Titanfall 2 has had, a 650,000 650% increase in user activity since that Apex announcement happened. And everyone on social media has been talking about how great the Titanfall 2 campaign is. Yeah, no shit. We were telling you that a few years ago, but no one played it.
And it was
because
recently on sale.
Yeah. Yeah, like you get it for like $5 or something crazy like that. And it's a shame, because that was a great game. That was a great franchise that I just felt like was always mismanned. I can get on a complete rant about Titanfall, but I'll move it along to just simply say that if you go back in time, Gary, going back to where you're talking about coming out in Q1, Q2, to me, that makes the most sense for Starfield. They don't need it this holiday because, like you said, Halo's going to take up all the oxygen in the room anyways. You can give it its own huge marketing push, debut, everything. Put it out in March 2022, late February, March of 2022. And that's very similar to what Bethesda did with Oblivion. I mean, and look how that turned out. So I don't think if it's 100% ready and they feel confident, I get it. But if you could even use an extra 2 weeks of QA time, take it. And then just push the game into 2022. I don't think you're going to hurt anybody's feelings.
I mean, like, historically, this has been a problem for gamers for years now, is that holiday period is always a train wreck in terms of all the big games arriving, right? And we understand why, right? Christmas gifts, right? People give each other gifts over the holidays. That's why the big games come out at that time. It's when most people are spending money. But people only have so much money to spend. And even on Game Pass, you only have so much time or hours in the day to play a game. Like, if Halo and Starfield came out on the same day, they're both on Game Pass, that's great in terms of a value. But like, which one do I spend my time playing? There's only so many hours in the day to play games. I'm cannibalizing my attention already. This holiday period, Halo, we know Halo Infinite's going to be up against a new Call of Duty game, and whatever other, whatever Sony's bringing out over the holiday period, whatever Nintendo's going to bring out. I guarantee you, Nintendo's got tricks up their sleeves for this holiday we don't know about yet. So you're going to go into this meat grinder. Like Halo's obviously nobody's whipping boy. It's a massive, massive thing. But Call of Duty and again, Sony and Nintendo are going to have their big holiday release as well. Who else knows what's coming? The worst thing that Microsoft could do is launch a gaming competition against themselves when there's only so much money and so many hours of kind of attention span for gamers to be looking at any number of games. So for all of those reasons, I think yes, I'll just reiterate it. Halo, we know we're going to see this holiday. Starfield, again, by the end of the year, we'll know a lot more about it. And one of the things we'll probably know is it's coming out like Q1, Q2. That's my best guess. I'm going to bet the farm on it. I feel I'm really talking myself into it. I feel very confident about this prediction.
I'll definitely take a side bet.
In the highlight reel, that's where you cut to the part where Todd Howard announces Starfield coming out for the holidays.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That would be so funny. But I'm with you, though. I just think it just makes the most sense to me at this point that we'll see it early next year. But I'm looking at the time, so I know we're going to start wrapping this up soon. So I want to get to the final news topic of the day, and I want to do it a little different than the way that Mike does. And I want to make the final news topic games with gold for May. There's 4 games coming. One is called Armello, which I've never heard of, Dungeons 3, Lego Batman, and Tropico 4. I would say of the last few months of games with gold, this one's okay. This one's decent. I kind of get this one. Lego Batman obviously is the highlight of all of this, and I know there's a lot of Tropico fans out there as well. So this is decent. I think January when they had Little Nightmares was probably the last time they had a really good game in the games with gold lineup. But to me, this opens up a bigger discussion. And this actually goes back to, I guess it was January, when Microsoft tried to raise the price of Xbox Live Gold to $120 for basically new customers, right? And the community rebelled and they repealed it within 15 hours, which good on them because that would have been a disaster. But Andrew, I want to throw it to you. Like, obviously you're not on Game Pass and we've already talked about that, but are you an Xbox Live Gold subscriber? And the games with gold, is this something that ever excites you when they come out every month?
No, I actually pulled the plug on that maybe 3 or 4 years ago because I didn't understand if I have internet and I have a PC, why am I gated for certain things to access certain things? So logically for me, it never made sense. So, and I didn't miss it once I stopped PS Plus and the Xbox Live stuff. I didn't miss it. So are we rating this particular gold? Because if we are, I think B- because of Lego, right? Because Lego Batman is fantastic. But outside of that, there's no reason for me to get it unless it's a game that I'm really interested in, right? Like a Destiny or things related to Warframe or Paladins or et cetera, all the looter shooters basically, right? But no, I'm not really excited about that. And I pulled the plug on that maybe like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and Gary, I'll throw it to you. So we've obviously talked about games with gold in the past, but you look at this lineup and you just kind of think about the overall strategy here of what Microsoft is doing with gold and obviously trying to leverage Game Pass and all that. I mean, your thoughts. I mean, is it time for gold to go away? We've obviously seen them untether free to play games from it. Are we just really at that point where they just need to get rid of it once for all, or is there still a need for?
Yeah, listen. I mean,
if
we're on still doing predictions, I don't think Games of Gold will be around in a year. I think it's on its way out the door.
Do you want me to time code this too?
Yeah, yes. You throw it all back at me a year from now. I'm used to it. I'm used to being wrong. I do think it's on its way out of the door. Game Pass just makes it look bad. Because Game Pass is so good, it's like, why do you even bother having this other thing? Lego Batman is a banger. It is an absolute banger. Almost all the Lego games are, especially if you have kids and you like couch co-op. The Lego Batman games are just fantastic. Aside from that, yeah, it's like I remember last month actually. We didn't talk about it on Xcast at the time. I wanted to, but for some reason I forgot to put it in the show notes or whatever. But I remember last month when they did games with gold. That I don't remember exactly what was in it, but I do remember that month's rollout was really underwhelming. And when they announced it, there were a ton of people going like, why even bother with this anymore? Like, this is just not that great. And it wasn't that great, but like I said, it looks even worse in the light of Game Pass, which is just so much better. One, because games with gold, they're discounts, but you're still paying a la carte for gold. One of the general comments I was going to make to you, Parris, is kind of the weird, unseen, unexpected side effect of Game Pass is it's made me weirdly allergic to the idea of paying for games a la carte now. Like we were on Game Pass with my kid the other day. We were looking at all these like this smorgasbord of games, again, quote unquote free. Like, I'm paying for them, but again, I've already priced. I bought my subscription like a long time ago. Right now, I just think of these games as free, right? Because I'm not paying for them. At the point of purchase, they're just there. There's no buy button. There's just an install button. I already own all these games, right? It's just a question if I want to install them. When my kid goes over to the Microsoft Store on Xbox and sees other games that are like $29.99, $39.99, I'm like, ooh. It's like, ooh, really? I kind of wish that everything you notice is now we get into the every time they announce a new game, we're like, I hope it's on Game Pass because then I'm basically getting it free for free because I'm becoming more and more alert, and because there's an expectation that so many games are on Game Pass. Anytime now I see a game that is an a la carte purchase from the store, I'm like, but if only it were on Game Pass, I wouldn't have to buy the game. And it would just be priced into the subscription I already have. So I'm like weirdly kind of allergic to now buying games a la carte because Game Pass has basically spoiled us and our sense of value. I saw this also on, this happened years ago in the mobile games economy. I used to talk about how like the free and the 99-cent app economy has really ruined and skewed our sense of value, where we're so used to like just getting a game for free or getting an app for free on our iPhone or our Android phones, that when you see a game coming along, like, even if it's like really highly rated, if it's like $2.99 or $4.99, you're like, ooh, I don't know, bit pricey.
Right, yeah.
Really, $3? I tip the pizza guy more than that. And yet apps and free apps have spoiled us. And they've totally skewed our perception of value, that now we feel like a $3 app is like, ooh, that's a bit of a risky investment. What if I don't get my $3 worth? Really? I spent more than that on a coffee this morning. And yeah,
Gary, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the wording of saying that you own is misleading for Game Pass?
I mean, I guess technically yes, because I don't own. I own it for as long as I'm willing to pay for the subscription. Right. But like, I don't know. That to me is a kind of semantic distinction that I don't terribly care about. This happened recently when I bought I purchased, again, did I really purchase it? Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus. I already pay for that subscription, but because my kid wanted to watch it right away.
Semantics though?
Because there's no real world difference. To me, it's a distinction without a difference. I have full access to it and will continue to have access to it indefinitely, because it's hard for me to imagine a time when I don't have an active Game Pass subscription, or I don't have an active Disney Plus subscription. Like, gotcha. if you have kids, having Disney Plus is like having water and it's like having plumbing. Like, you just got to have it. It's not an option. And or Netflix, like we're just so used to having these subscriptions now. So again, I as far as I'm concerned, I have full access to these games in perpetuity. Now games do disappear off Game Pass, right? They get cycled in and out. I just know that all things being equal, at the end of the day, if you said to me you can either like give up Game Pass and just go back to buying games a la carte, or just have Game Pass but you'll never truly own the games. Game Pass to me is still a better value. Like most games are very ephemeral to me anyway. There's only a handful of games that I can imagine that I still would be playing like years later. And in that handful of cases, I will buy the game. But for the most part, in the grand scheme of things, Game Pass to me is a much preferable way to acquire, or whatever, again, whatever word you want to use to have that game available to play in your house. It just makes an overall greater sense of value. Again, there are a handful of games
that the time to do that.
No, not. I mean, it's like if I find a game on Game Pass, I'm like, oh my god, this game, I'm in love with this game, and I can be playing this for years. There is an option to purchase it separately, right, outside of the Game Pass subscription, and then they can never really take it away from you. Although, again, you can take the argument further. Again, it's a digital purchase. There are people out there who say, well, you don't really own it because it's only digital. There's no box. They could flip a switch server side anytime and that game goes away. And in the new digital economy, that's a risk we take every single time we quote unquote buy anything. I mean, we've been doing this for years, right? Even when you buy a physical game, you still have to check that EULA, which is in very small print, is going to tell you don't really own this. You have purchased a limited license to play this game for as long as we decide to let you. And this is just a reality that we've been living with for years now. Does it suck? Yeah, kind of, but like it ain't going to change. This is you may as well just get used to this being the new reality. If you want to go back to a time where you just bought a game on a cartridge and slapped it in a Nintendo or whatever, and Nintendo could, short of them coming to your house, they can't ever take that game away from you. We could go back to that, but I think what we've gained is so much greater than what we've traded in terms of having access to this vast library of games on demand.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
I agree with you, Gary, but we are so limited on time. I'm not going to touch that one today, but I totally get what you're saying about the argument about ownership. We'll definitely have to jump into that in a future show. So before we get out of here, I wanted to bring up one last thing before we do the outro, and I kind of wanted to jump into Game Pass Game of the Week. And I had one I particularly wanted to talk about, and if you two have one, great. But one I wanted to bring up was called Rain on Your Parade, and it's from Unbound Creations. And this kind of, again, leans into the whole discoverability of what Game Pass is. It's a game that just recently came to the service, and it's similar to Donut County in the way where you're literally a rain cloud. And it's an indie title, but you're a rain cloud, and your whole purpose is to ruin people's day. Is like you might put out a fire, but you have a limited amount of water. You got to spray it on all the people, and you have to hit these certain objectives in each level that you're in. And once you complete them, you can go to the next one. Fun game, fun little story. Highly recommend people check it out. Like I said, it's on Game Pass right now. So Andrew, I'll throw it to you. Did you have any Game Pass games that you might want to suggest to the people?
I did not, but the Game Pass is compelling, and I think you guys are making a strong case.
We got to get you a code so you can try it for a bit and live with it for a while. I want to second the Rain on Your Parade recommendation. That, in fact, is the game I was referring to earlier when I talked about a game that had it been $20 a la carte in the store, I might not have taken the risk, but because the install button was right there, it was already priced into Game Pass. We tried it. My kid and I had a blast playing it all last weekend. She actually finished the game. I don't know if you got all the way through it yet, Parris, but that game ends up going to some really wild places. Like, it's not just about being a cloud. You end up being like, I don't want to spoil it, but it goes to some really, really, really wild places. It's a perfect kind of Game Pass game. It's like maybe 10, 15 hours. There is a new Game Plus. If you finish, you can go back and do a bunch of other stuff and get all the achievements. But again, I just remember thinking as my kid was playing that game, this to me, this I know that Halo and Forza will always be the standard bearers, but a little hidden gem like Rain on Your Parade exactly to me is like the best advertisement for something like Game Pass. Like a delightful little game that you'll have a blast playing it over the weekend, and you would so easily have missed it had it been like a $15 or $20 purchase. Again, because these days we go, I don't know, $20, do I want to take the risk? Game Pass takes the risk away. Give it a try. And it's a new game that I've fallen in love with and now recommend to everyone who will listen. And I never, ever would have discovered it had it been an a la carte game, because I would look to say, maybe, but I don't want to take the risk. Again, no risk. Enjoyed it. Loved it. Go try it out. Rain on Your Parade. So much fun.
Absolutely. And I got to talk to a couple of devs on Twitter, and they're big fans of Kind of Funny. And there is a blessing Easter egg in the game. So
I saw that, and I think there might be a little Greg reference in there as well. I noticed. Yeah,
they hinted at it, but I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure what it is.
I saw one or two things. We got to get you and me. We got to get you and me into Rain on Your Parade too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's do
it. Say, hey, if you're looking at this Unbound Creations, put me and Gary in the game. We'd love it. But again, fantastic game, and I highly recommend people check it out if you're on Game Pass. So we're running out of time this week, so I want to go ahead and wrap it up. And first and foremost, I want to thank both you, Gary, and Andrew for being on this week. Mike, you will always be missed. There's no way possible I can match your energy, and that's why I love you so much. But hope it did okay this episode. We had great conversations, and like I said, before we get out of here, I just want to let people know where they can find each of us. So, Gary, where can people find you?
It's just my name on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. GaryWhitta.
Right on. And I'm Parris, Vicious696 on Twitter. Kind of Funny Gamertag Radio. But Andrew, I turn it over to you, sir. And again, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to come co-host with us here on Xcast. I really appreciate it. You know, from a personal level, I love you to death. Always.
You too, man.
It's a great conversation when you and I talk, if people only knew. the crazy conversations we have sometimes. But please let people know where they can find you.
You can find me at Uriah, URIYYA, on Twitter. And I think that's all I'll give there. This was definitely a bucket list for me. You guys mean a lot to me. Gary, I watch a lot of your stuff. It was
Thank
an
you.
honor to share the room with you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Parris, love you, man. You're my brother, and I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me to do this. This was definitely an honor. Thank you.
No, the thanks is all mine. Thank you for coming on. Like I said, I really appreciate it. Love you to death, man. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because we are out of time. So I want to thank everyone for checking out this episode of Kind of Funny Xcast. I'm Parris. That's Gary. That's Andrew. And we'll see you guys next week.